if Bitcoin's worth $2 million, which I think it is in today's dollars because of a total addressable market calculation, if you're messing around because you're waiting for Bitcoin to go to 21,000 versus buying it at 29,000, you're the stupidest asset manager on the block, okay? It's a rounding error in the context of where it could go, especially, and here's the secret sauce, when the gamma squeeze kicks in. It'll go to your $200,000 price target overnight, Max, when one large company or big pension fund announces $100 billion position in Bitcoin. Gamma squeezes rip your face off, okay? You could be in for a face-ripping rally when you are caught short and the gamma squeeze comes in.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. Bitcoin pumping over the weekend. Happy Monday to everybody. As you guys can see right here, once we broke this $40,000 area, it just skyrocketed, and you could see it went all the way up to about $42,200, and it's still sort of hanging around that area. So this just goes to show you how quick these price movements can actually happen once they do start moving, right? It consolidates, it's boring, and then next thing you know, you're having $2,000 candle days. Oh, and another thing I just wanted to point out right here, if we go over to all of the market caps of everything, obviously gold, which has been around for 5,000 years, clearly still holding the first place for now. For now, gold, Bitcoin's coming for you. But as you guys can see right here, Bitcoin has actually moved up 2 spaces, overtaking Tesla. And that's right, my friends, Berkshire Hathaway. So Bitcoin is now, in fact, worth more than Berkshire Hathaway. So the 2 old men who called Bitcoin rat poison squared, well, it's outperforming their recommendations. So kind of always nice to see, nice to let the numbers speak for themselves. But talking about numbers, that's what I wanted to get into today, because a lot of people are still not quite comprehending just how big this could be. And I'm not even just talking about the ETF. In fact, there are some rumors circulating right now. Now, keep in mind, these are not confirmed. They are rumors, but if they turn out to be true, this could be arguably bigger than the ETF. And you might be saying, well, how could it be bigger than the ETF? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's something we've talked about a lot on this channel. Hint, hint. So if you've been following, you might know where I am going with this. I also wanted to discuss the possible, gamma squeeze, essentially, that you saw Greg Foss talking about in the beginning of this video. Now, keep in mind, he mentioned that when Bitcoin was only $30,000. Clearly, we're $12,000 higher at the time of making this video. And he goes into why he believes, here's a crazy prediction, Bitcoin could go to $2 million. Now, is that possible? Well, we're going to crunch those numbers today, and you're definitely going to want to stick around for that. But I also want to air a small bit of caution, because there are 3 things right now that I am seeing on the charts that I do just want to let you know. I know it's exciting. I know we're going to the moon. We're going to 100,000, but I do want to be realistic about this. So I will put that at the end of the video, and if that sounds good to you, you know what to do if you're not subscribed. Definitely consider it. Oh, and by the way, guys, once again, I can't help but give a massive shout out to Meta Signals, because they called this move. I mean, look at this. We had this price alert right here at $38,200. And what do you know, guys? We did, in fact, hit both of the targets, actually skyrocketed past the targets. Now, generally, they would have a third target up here, but because they're still a little bit in the beta, this one didn't flash. But either way, it was calling for 40,700, which we clearly hit that level. So again, guys, these signals are totally free until December 12th. After that, they are going to close, and it will be only a paid service at that point. But if you do want to get early access, you can go over and check out the NFT, which is limited to 2,000 NFTs, and it will give you lifetime access forever with all of the upgrades indefinitely. So it's an amazing, amazing deal. And yeah, I mean, as you guys could see, everyone in the Discord, clearly the numbers and the signals are speaking for themselves. So I'll leave that link below in the description if you guys are interested in getting into Meta Signals. But let's come over here and let's start with the numbers. That's what I want to go over today, right? So we know that Bitcoin is slowly starting to take over, essentially, all these other potential assets. You're seeing, people sort of like suck it up, almost like gobbling it up, right? So I wanted to come over here to Mitchell, and he was talking about market caps of different assets. Now, let's just assume the bearish case of Bitcoin. Let's say that the portfolio goes to 60, 39, 1 or something like that, right? Which he has Bitcoin down here at about 1.6. 0.63% roughly, you know, trying to divide it over here. I'm sorry, this is actually gold. I'm sorry, this is Bitcoin. No, I'm sorry, this is Bitcoin. This sliver is Bitcoin right here. So basically, if you go up to a 1%, you're talking about a 20x increase in the market cap. So yes, that is a 20x increase from just the price of Bitcoin today. So that puts Bitcoin upwards at around $800,000. But what about the bull case? Now, this is crazy. You know, will this ever happen? Well, let's assume that Bitcoin entirely replaces bonds, which are obviously worthless fiat crap. Well, if it does that, then it makes about 60% of global assets, which would be absolutely incredible. I mean, it literally looks like Pac-Man actually gobbling up the whole, you know, pie chart right here. And that would be a 1,196 increase in market cap for Bitcoin. So, you know, are these numbers even possible? Can Bitcoin actually get to that $2 million, you know, level that Greg Foss is talking about? Well, he is over here, and you could see he was talking to Rosanna Prestia, MBA, and in this video, he explains the very simple math of how you actually could get Bitcoin to $2 million per coin.
In the entire world, total financial assets in the entire world in US dollars are worth 900 trillion US dollars. And I'm going to run through them very simply. What are they? There's 400 trillion of global debt. Okay. There's 300 trillion of global real estate. There's 100 trillion of global equity. And there's another 100 trillion of miscellaneous assets like gold, which is about 10 trillion, fine art, commodities, currencies, everything else. So what do you have? You have 400 plus 300 plus 100 plus 100. That's 900 trillion US dollars in today's dollars. I believe that Bitcoin, which currently is worth 1/2 of $1 trillion, so 1/1800th, 1/1800th of the size of all global assets, I believe it's not crazy to think that Bitcoin will someday capture a 5% market share. Why? Well, because Bitcoin is the ultimate store of value. It's programmable, transferable. It is immutable. It's the perfect hard asset that will take a little piece of all of these other asset classes. So let's start with a 5%. What is 5% of $900 trillion? 5% of 900 trillion is $45 trillion. How many Bitcoin did you say there were?
21
million. And that's protocol defended by mathematics and code and decentralized. Nobody can change that. Well, get out your calculators, people, but I'll save you the time. What is 45 trillion divided by 21 million? That's over 2 million US dollars per Bitcoin.
Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Clearly, we're not even back at the previous all-time highs, which, side note, I just laugh. I remember I was having a discussion about with a few people about whether or not we were in a bull market, and I said we are. I think we are, clearly. And some people are saying, well, it's not a confirmed bull market until you take out the previous highs. Oh, okay, so we're just going to wait till Bitcoin gets all the way back to 69,000, and then it's confirmed, and then we can start buying again. I mean, come on, these people just make me laugh. But if you want to talk about more reasonable price targets, you know, Max Kaiser, he's talking about a $220,000 Bitcoin target for this cycle in play. Now, also from Max Kaiser, and this is sort of the rumors that are circulating right now, so I'm not going to say that this is official. I'm just saying, you know, again, we're just talking about the hypotheticals here, but he says reports of rumors that I always forget how to say this country's name. Is it Qatar? Is it Qatar? Is that how you say it? Qatar's sovereign wealth fund, please don't make fun of me, has entered the Bitcoin market and could be interested in purchasing up to $500 billion worth of Bitcoin. $500 billion. Now, just to put that into perspective, we were talking in our previous video of just the ETF bringing in around 100 billion, right? But we've talked about these sovereign wealth funds and what happens when they get the green light. What happens, like what we saw with El Salvador, when these sovereign wealth funds start putting Bitcoin, you know, and keep in mind, these guys, they're not buying looking for a 5% flip. They're looking for massive allocation and they're looking to hold for long term, right? But again, there is a little bit of a problem. If these guys are looking to potentially buy 500 billion or even just 100 billion, which are the estimates for the ETF, you could see that Mitchell points out for the first time Bitcoin, that Bitcoin passed 40,000 in January of 2021, the supply that hadn't moved in a year or longer was at 57% and dropping. This time, the supply hasn't moved in a year or longer and is at 71% and rising. So yes, this time is different. We're at the same price, we have more demand, and we have less Bitcoin. There is more people hodling. In fact, it's not just the hodlers, but then also, where are they going to get the Bitcoin from? They're not doing it P2P, right? Look at this Glassnode chart. So what we saw back in the beginning was Bitcoin on exchanges basically just rose consistently over time. And then something right around the COVID crash happened, which I don't really quite understand what was going on. You would have thought the FTX, debacle would have been a little more worrisome, but you could see right here, Bitcoin on exchanges has gone significantly lower and lower and lower and lower. And right after the FTX debacle, massive Bitcoin got removed, and it's been going lower ever since. So this is showing us that more people are not only taking control of their Bitcoin personally, holding it in their own wallets, but there's also less on the exchanges. So where are all these Wall Street and ETF and sovereign wealth funds going to get their Bitcoin from when we have basically only, I think, about 2 million Bitcoin really on exchange, which would basically be everything if these guys were trying to buy? Essentially, that would be all the Bitcoin, right? So that is just something insane. Now, of course, people are going to put their Bitcoin on exchanges when they want to sell. Yes, as price goes up, people are going to take profits. But, for people who took profits at 20K, good on them. But now we're at 42, and then eventually we'll be at 100 and 200. So the demand will just continue to rise over time. And, Peter Dunworth, he was over here talking to Luke Broyles, and he's all about self-custody and stuff like that. And even though he wouldn't give necessarily a specific prediction, you could see how with his experience, in just looking at these things, he also comes to a very similar conclusion as Greg Foss did as well.
Well, anything is really possible. And I mean that sincerely. And one of the things that everyone's talking about, and I'll probably take a counter to the the narrative here, is that everyone's talking about the Bitcoin ETFs all get approved on the same day. Now, think about that from a market perspective. The SEC is going to approve 20 ETFs and allow 20 companies to go to market to garner attention. And you need to understand how an ETF works, that they're basically, it all trends to one, much like Bitcoin, in that the best ETF will garner most of those coins, and the fastest way to become the best ETF is to be the biggest, the fastest, the quickest way possible. So you've got 20 different institutions who are highly motivated to be the biggest, to be the best, to get coins under management, Bitcoin under management, as much as quickly as possible. And one thing I just want to talk about on the multiplier that is really critical is there are a number of different components to the multiplier. It's not so much how much money goes into it, although that is a really important factor. You need to also look at how quickly that money goes in and over what period of time. And so if all 20 ETFs are approved on the day, they're now all out there incentivized to drive large numbers, huge amount of capital into those ETFs immediately. Now, what's that going to do when that ETF has to buy spot on the market on the day? The 500,000 that we talked about being sold or exchanged today, it could look like 1 million or 2 million coins exchanged on the day. Now, if that's the case, 2 million coins exchanged on the day all going to these 20 ETFs, well, that kind of takes all the coins off exchange, and then you're at, what one of my two favorite words in Bitcoin is price discovery. What will it be? Who knows? Price discovery. So I think we'll see all-time highs really quickly, and this is where the counter to the narrative that all the ETFs will be approved on the day. I'm not sure we're going to see that, because if you approve all the Bitcoin ETFs on the same day, you're going to have 20, highly organized sales teams going to all of their constituents, their customers, investors, and plowing in huge amounts of capital on that first day. And then, you're going to have all that capital plow in on the first day, and it's much like that multiplier will spike far higher than anyone can dream of, because you've got to buy, I think there was, I want to say there's roughly the gold ETF market cap is roughly $100 billion. Now, I would have thought that Bitcoin can garner at least that, maybe double or triple in the first 12 months, but a lot of that buying is going to be done in the first month. So what happens when, an extra $1 billion a day is going into Bitcoin? This, at that speed, it's sort of pumping the price up, and as you'd expect, it goes up and then it'll drop. But when there's another $1 billion behind it and another $1 billion the next day, it just keeps ramping up. And what's going to be really interesting is to reconcile those inflows into Bitcoin with the coins off exchange into long term. And then it's so much fun to think about, because this is an asset with qualities that have never existed in any other asset in history. So it's pure speculation. And we're going to, in the fullness of time, we're going to get to see what that actually does. And, if it's more like our way of thinking, that all of a sudden there's going to be price discovery that we, are beyond our wildest imagination. And sure, it could happen. We could see that in the next 2 years. And it feels like FTX really limited the last bull cycle. So, there might be a catch up this cycle. I wish I had a better answer for you, Luke, a more definitive one, but I think it's going to surprise to the upside.
And again, you could talk to these bulls, and of course they're going to call these crazy numbers, or the news, which everybody says, once the news starts talking about it, it's time to sell, right? But you can also just talk to the people that actually deal with the customers themselves. I personally speak with OTC desks. I know I see the demand versus the supply, and it's getting hard to fill some of these orders. You could see Bybit Research said in their recent report that institutional investors are torn between Bitcoin and Ethereum, but they say that institutional investors are very interested in crypto. Bitcoin held by institutional investors has experienced a sharp rise, according to the research, especially in September. They mentioned half of the asset portfolio of institutional investors were allocated to Bitcoin. Additionally, institutional investors, whales, large Bitcoin holders, and other bigger players are a little skeptic of altcoins. They said, according to the data, they're much more interested in Bitcoin right now. So, again, I'm not saying that alt season won't eventually happen. I'm not saying that Ethereum isn't going to move up. But right now, guys, the blue chip is Bitcoin, and that's where these big players are looking. Eventually, they may, dabble in the other altcoins, but Bitcoin is really the major focus right now, and that's one of the reasons why I stay so laser focused on it. But I do want to talk about what's going on in the charts right now. So, as you guys can see, we did get above this area of around this 41,000 on the volume range. Now, obviously, the next area is around 47,000, right? There's not really a lot of interest and necessarily in this area in the middle. But the question is, are we actually going to get up to 47,000? Now, we have talked about our falling wedge pattern. I guess I could put it on if you want to see again, and we do have this crazy target between 47 and 52,000. But really, what is a little concerning is we are now at the top of this blue zone. And remember, this blue zone right here, we had a few levels, and we really haven't had a chance to come back and retest any of these. Now, there's always the possibility, that we're getting ready to just go parabolic, right? I mean, that could happen. It's never really happened at this point in the cycle, but this time is different. So I would just be a little bit cautious, and let me just show you a few reasons. Now, I'm not saying Bitcoin can't just keep going. I mean, we could just keep going to the moon. I don't know. That's kind of the point of this video, is maybe TA won't matter once we have the massive demand. But just having a look at the technicals, this was the area that we had cautioned for a very long time, which might be an area of interest. There may be some people that have bought all through here that are looking at this level, and they may be looking to potentially take some profits. Now, something else I just wanted to point out, I don't usually go over these a lot on the channel, but if we just take a simple Fibonacci retracement, right, and we bring it all the way from the, the highs right here at 69 all the way down to the lows at 15.5, do you see what's happening right here, guys? What we're doing is we're hitting this level right here, which is the 0.5. And you could see why we've had that resistance. The same way that we had the 0.38 acting as support, we have the 0.5 acting as potential resistance. Now, the 0.618 Fibonacci, retracement, whatever, in my views, it works in either direction. You can go up, you can go down. These numbers really, they work no matter which way you do them, for the most part, give or take. And, that level is sitting at around 48,576. So, again, that was our potential target for the falling wedge breakout, and that is really an area of major caution. So this is the first area right here, and we are hitting that area right now. In fact, if I zoom in, you could see that we got, I'm not going to say we got rejected, but we didn't move any higher than that area. So, you know, could this act as a bit of resistance? Then we break out, you know, possibly. Could it be resistance? Then we come down here, maybe retest this parabola, possibly. But again, that was something to be concerned about. The other thing, and again, I'm not trying to be a bear. I'm trying to be realistic on here because I am very excited. Everybody's very excited, but we do have to be realistic. We also did put in a CME futures gap over the weekend. So the price pumped over the weekend, but there's this gap in price. And if you do know on this channel, it is a bit of a meme. It is a bit of a meme at this point, but, you know, ultimately, we usually tend to close the gaps, and we usually tend to close them sooner than later. So in order to close that gap, Bitcoin would actually have to come back down, unfortunately, to about 39,640. So that's not really that big of a pullback, really, from where we're at right now. Bitcoin would basically just have to come down about 6% to fill that gap. But it is something I wanted to point out. And these gaps, they do often tend to get closed. They have, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but it's a very, 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 very high rate. It's like 90-something percent, 94% that, you know, this gap will get closed. So that is the possibility. But again, you know, speaking from a longer term perspective, yes, there is these possibilities. Yes, we could be getting into overheated territory. I mean, the RSI is literally mooning through the roof right now. But, you know, we have had the crossover on the MACD. We have had the super guppy flashing green. And, you know, once we go into the green, we tend to stay green for quite a long time. So I am still quite bullish, you know, and what I'm paying attention to really is, you know, for if we do have this move, is this market cipher. I'm kind of looking to see over, and this is on the daily. The weekly looks absolutely beautiful. If I switch to the weekly, I mean, this has got to be one of the most beautiful charts I've ever seen in my life. I mean, above all moving averages, bump and run breakout, money flow moving to the upside, beautiful, right? But on the daily, if we move it a little bit slower, we have to, we have to pay attention to this wave right here. You know, if it closes a little bit higher, then that may signal that we have a little bit more to go. But if this wave, or even if it does close higher, we come back down and then put in a lower wave, that could signal to me that maybe it's time for the markets to cool down. So right now, it's still bullish, but it's starting to get into that area where there's a little bit of concern, right? Now, on the flip side, if we do, you know, do what we've done in the past with these broadening wedge channels, you know, out of the Gaussian, then yeah, guys, if we, you know, going straight up here gives us a target of around $50,000. And if we were to break out of there, then yeah, well, I mean, you guys know what happens when we tend to break out of those channels. But for now, obviously, guys, I'm just saying maybe exercise a small bit of caution just in the short term. That doesn't mean that we still can't get that move to the point 618, right? But again, we are now getting into kind of overheated territory, you know, 7 straight. I don't know how many weeks we've had of green candles here. What is this, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yes, about 7 weeks of green candles. So, you know, I mean, nothing goes up in a straight line. But anyway, guys, that is it for me today. Obviously, if you guys, you know, if you do want to learn how to trade, you can check out my tutorials. They are absolutely free. They are in the description, but I will be keeping you guys updated as frequently as possible. Again, if you do want to check out meta signals over here, you know, again, if we go over to the NFTs, I don't know how many are sold right now. It's 586, so that means there's 1,414 left. But, you know, remember, they do increase in price the longer that you wait, right? So, yeah, I mean, check it out, guys. Obviously, you know, not shilling anything. You guys do what you want. You know, it doesn't really matter to me, but it does give a really good edge, and it has been playing out quite nicely lately. So that is it for me. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. If you do want to learn how to trade, we've been pretty profitable for the past few months over here. Check out the tutorial popping up right here, right now. This is for Apex. It is a decentralized exchange. I also have CoinCatch, and Femex is really good as well. They also have their PT token. Check that out. Exchange tokens tend to do well. So until next time, guys, I love you. You're awesome. Stay crypto, and peace out.